begin, and we will start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the May 17th, 2018 meeting for the Shawnee County Board of Commissioners. My name is Kevin Cook. I serve as the chair. Joining me today is Commissioner Shelley Bueller. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Commissioner Bob Archer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Clerk, if we could begin with our first item.
Our first items under unfinished business, item 2, update on Kansas Expo Center Master Plan renovation.
Good morning, Commissioner. Zach Sneed and HTK Architects. I am here for the third Thursday, our regular third Thursday update of where we're at on schematic design within the Expo Center project. And so I'll pull up a few things here. We're going to kind of look through where we were at last. We were here just last week in a work session, so it's kind of just a refresh of where we were at, moving forward towards schematic design towards the end of the month, towards the end of the month. So just quickly give a quick update where we're at. First off, we're going to look at a few pictures here, talk about where we were at last week in terms of looking at a couple options for the Expo Center, really that main entrance, and kind of what we learned and what we heard from both the conversations here in the work session, but then also afterwards with the design committee. We really had two options. There was kind of an option B, which I've got up on the screen first. There was really the option that centered around what was in the master plan, and it developed that single point of entry, main entry into the building. Just another view of that. The second option that we looked at, that afterwards in the meeting that we conversation that there was started to build consensus around, was started to take that same notion of the new front on it, the single point of entry, but then also some more of a definitive defining elements to that front entrance, and really starting to look at, are there ways to bring, we've got the opportunity because we're reskinning the building to bring some emphasis to that front entrance and really make a statement on what that is. So these are just images that you saw last week. We're still carrying the two options, starting to make some subtle enhancements to those, taking again what we heard about making something that defines that front entrance so that it's not lost on the face of a large building. And looking at, again, that option B, and then but really starting to look at that option A, which was the one that really we heard consensus around, some of the forms and the shapes that create that, but starting to also bring in some opportunity, look for opportunities to bring in some color into it, whether that's in the glass in it, whether it's in some of the paneling, the profiling that have on the wall panels that we're going to reskin that with, and really looking at, is there something so that we have, because it's kind of a unifying front to the building, something that defines that front entrance to the building, so that as you go in, that you can process either to Landon on your left or to Exhibition Hall on your right. So as these images that we have, they're still very schematic, and but they're starting to pull aspects that we've heard in conversations and pull some of the ideas that we've had together into starting to look at what that might look like, and some of the schematic level forms and shapes that those will be. So this is still in the schematic design, so it's still conceptual as we work towards the end of the month with a final schematic design presentation, and then further into design development. These will get more defined and more detailed in terms of what they are. But this is kind of this option A, version 2 is kind of where we're progressing based on some of the comments that we've heard from previous meetings. So, is there any comments to this? Otherwise, I'll...
Commissioner Archer.
I love it. It looks like it's Carolina blue on the bottom. Thank you, Zach.
Yeah. So continuing on, so really kind of three things to talk about here. The other component is looking at, there's a notion of when we went to that option 4 on the project, and I think this was the spreadsheet that you guys saw last time in terms of looking at the overall cost. When we went to that option 4 of putting the expansion on the north side of Exhibition Hall, this list here includes everything that has been discussed within the master plan. It also adds in 2 components of a production kitchen, and then also the notion that there could be a mezzanine above the support spaces within that exhibition hall. So what are those numbers? What does that do? This number really down here of 35 million is in totality of the components that have been discussed within the master plan. And really the bulk of that increase over that master plan budget is that move from the barns on the south side of Landon up to the expansion of Exhibition Hall. And that really it's a change in construction type, greater structure on the north side, more conditioning, concrete floors, and a more, just a larger volume space there. Let's see which work is here. So that's kind of, as I said, that our master plan budget was around $30 million, and where we get to that is the 45 million total minus the financing, minus the soft costs and FF&E, leaves you with approximate, and then minus the contingency that's still held out there, leaves you with approximately $30 million. As we've carried before, there's about a $3 to $3.5 million increase to go to that option 4 with the expansion on the north end. Continuing down, the notion of the production kitchen, it's something that Kellen and his team has expressed that value for, in being able to offer enhanced catering, support catering opportunities within their facilities, but also support the greater offerings in the concession stands for patrons at the Expo Center. It's also something that was originally in the original 1980s construction, but then was value engineered out of that. And so carrying a number forward that looks at what would it take to bring a production kitchen into the Expo Center. And then that number for the mezzanine, and I think we've got it noted as off the table, because I think what based on our discussions last week is really that we can make some simple moves, simple enhancements to the structure, so that mezzanine could be developed and could be built relatively easily in the future, should it be needed. That was kind of a lower priority if we were to start to prioritize some of these items. And so then, so kind of that total, and then backing out that mezzanine, is really looking at a $4 million increase over the master plan, the budget that's given in the master plan. Just another way to look at that, when you look at just really what were those moves in moving from the more barn type facilities on the south side of Landon, which was what was in the master plan, to that option 4. Again, about that $3 to $3.5 million increase. We've had some minor adjustments in terms of the renovations at the equine facilities, and so kind of still a net of about a $3 million increase over where we were at based on those moves. And then adding back in that production kitchen, but then reducing the The chiller conversion for Maynard Conference Center that's currently in construction, that item was bid out at approximately $320,000 and has been noted that that's going to be pulled from other funds. And so still that net increase over the master plan based on what we've discussed of about $3.3 million. Other items that Kellen and his team have expressed high interest in, some of the AV and technology components to both land and arena and exhibition hall. They are currently, as we've really slid that line up a little bit to account for the expansions on exhibition hall. These items have fallen below the line, and so they would be currently listed as alternates to the project. Should funding be, construction bids come in well, we would be able to entertain some of these alternates, but these items are currently shown as alternates or carried forward as alternates in the overall project. But if you were to total the 3.3 and this list here of about $1.6 million, you're looking at just under $5 million in terms of additional items that have been requested to be within the project. So I bring this really to your attention just so that it's just kind of that continued conversation about knowing that when we move to the expansion on the north side, that we've got to either reduce either need to reduce the scope of the project or reduce the or increase the budget to the project. So in some of our conversations with the design team and then with Jim Crowell as well, is looking at what are some of those options to look at reduction in, either reduction in primarily looking at deferred maintenance items. Is there knowing that we've really got kind of a $3 to $3.5 million a gap, that are there some deferred maintenance items that can be pulled out. The HVAC project and the boiler projects, as you know, that are currently under construction and out for bidding, they're each right at $1 million. Those could be, those being deferred maintenance items, could be pulled out and pulled to funded through other sources. So looking at another component of the building skin, coupling the building skin, the lighting within the land and arena bowl, and the lighting outside of the bowl area. That total could be around, or is around $3.4 million. Again, looking at options that could be considered for pulling out and either reducing the scope of the work or funding those from other, if we're looking at deferred maintenance options, funding those from other sources. The other option to look at is do you look at that priority list that we had in the master plan and essentially move that line up, and what are some of those items within that priority list? The parking and the exterior lighting around the site, that's approximately $2.8 million right there. Couple that with a few smaller projects of either some existing concessions equipment, or potentially some of the existing locker room renovations, some of the renovations in the back of the house. Again, get you to some options that you could look at for reducing the scope by the $3 to $3.5 million. So there's no, we don't have a definitive answer in terms of this is the scope that we're gonna cut to get into the budget, but we've just been tasked with what are some of those options to consider, and really looking at the deferred maintenance components as the kind of the key piece that could be funded through other sources. Is there any questions related?
So, Zach, let's just break this down for what it is. Right now, we're $5 million over budget.
Correct, yes.
And so but this is all based on estimates. We don't know what bids are going to come in at.
Correct.
We could be $50 million over budget if bids come in really poorly.
Yeah, we,
Or, I mean, just let's call it for what it is.
Yeah, fire us if we are.
You got that, Commissioner?
Don't worry.
I don't even think I'd show up.
But we also could be under budget, and we don't know what we don't know. But you're cautioning us at this time that if things go as you estimate, we will be $5 million over budget.
That is
fair?
correct, yes.
And so what you're asking us to do is either scale back some of the projects at this point, or to look at defining what would be deferred maintenance as opposed to a renovation. Is that accurate?
That is correct, and also and that line, within that prioritization line where that cuts off from in the project to alternates is really kind of moving that line up in the, up on the page so that you have more items. I mean, your alternates are, you've got more alternates or in the project.
Commissioner Bueller?
I don't think I have anything right now.
Okay. Commissioner Archer, thoughts?
Yeah, are we talking to anybody about naming rights, sponsorships? I know when you had the Midwest Health Aquatic Center, I went all over town talking to businesses and finally got somebody to sign up. Are we doing that for the Expo Center?
Sure. Yes, Kellen Seitz, Spectre Venue Management, Kansas Expo Center. To answer your question, yes, those conversations are taking place. We've met with a number of businesses in the market who have interest in that component. I will say that those conversations are very early and in their infancy stage of moving that project along. But I think with the renovation, it adds the majority of that value for cost to value propositioning for those businesses to come in at that level. So yes, those conversations are happening. In terms of the timeline on when that could come to fruition, unfortunately, I don't have a timeline on that right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think, Zach, if you're able to give us better definitions to work off of, when I hear the word renovation, renovation means new or a substantial change. Deferred maintenance is something that's already there that maybe needs to be addressed or replaced. A little bit later on in our agenda, there's a discussion about a boiler, and it says funding source to be determined, and whether or not that boiler is a renovation or that boiler is deferred maintenance, and that will be discussed at a later time. But I think those are the kinds of discussions that as a commission we need to have, and maybe providing that definition for us.
So I do have, since you asked, I do have a listing of kind of the items that are carried in that master plan that are identified as deferred maintenance, and that will start to define kind of what the scope of those are. Those are being the HVAC and the boiler project are both deferred maintenance projects. The HVAC is, as you know, is being replaced, and the boiler is currently out, so that is non-functioning, and that being replaced. So those kind of mechanical systems that you're updating. Those are considered deferred maintenance. Toilet facilities, restroom facilities, the improvements, the replacement, the fixing of things that are broken in there, those are deferred maintenance. The lighting within the facility, you've got mid-1980s technology for your lighting. As Kellen will attest to, there's a lot of opportunity for new lighting that improves the quality of space, but also improves greatly reduces the utility consumption within those. And there's the same way with the HVAC and the boiler equipment, that'll be significantly reduced utility usage within those. Some elevator upgrades, upgrades within repairs, structural repairs, some security updates within the Landon, or within the Equine and Domer Arena complexes, and then the parking and lighting, that's a deferred maintenance item. Some of these other items that in the master plan, they were categorized as new projects, but in reality, they really are deferred maintenance, things like some of these are smaller items, items such as like just painting, some equipment replacement, upgrades to locker rooms, renovations to locker rooms. Those are really, given the age of the facility, are considered deferred maintenance items. And so as we look at kind of the totality of deferred maintenance items, there's about $15 million in deferred maintenance projects that are within the master plan project.
But when you're talking about the outside of the building, the new skin, I mean, that really does have a new look for it. And so it's hard for me to say that that's a deferred maintenance as opposed, because it's really changing the characteristics of the building. Whereas if you're talking about your HVAC, you're replacing one chiller unit for another chiller unit. Or if you're talking about a boiler, you're replacing one boiler for another boiler. And so I think that's, as a commission, we probably need to have a little bit more.
Yeah, I will say one thing too, the skin, I mean, the skin replacement is twofold. It's primarily for, there are leaks in the system. As the exterior skin is currently, you would have to have a significant repair to go in and reseal joints, reseal panel joints on there. And so then twofold is looking at so from that standpoint, that skin repair, skin overlay is considered or I would consider a deferred maintenance. It's like replacing siding on your house, essentially. It's something that if you don't tend to it, that it'll continue to cause problems down the road. And so using that as an opportunity to also, we've got to address the skin issues, but then are there opportunities to not just go back with the same system that's there, but is there an opportunity to reskin that and give that a new look and feel to it through is really conceived as a maintenance item.
Well, and Commissioner Bueller?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in 1987, when we built the Expo Center for $20 million, we also built the Department of Corrections for $20 million. Both projects were taken on in 1987, and over the last several years, we've replaced items at the Department of Corrections that were original to this building. Mm-hmm. And we called those items deferred maintenance, replacement of the chiller, replacement of the boilers, but then we added on the kitchen. The kitchen was a renovation. Mm-hmm. So I think that, again, we have some context for projects that were both built at the exact same time and adding some definitions.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Bueller?
I think at this current time, then, we only have $3 million of unallocated funds for deferred maintenance. That's our limit.
Yes.
And so to look at that and see that, I guess looking at the parking lot and the fact that that probably won't be completed until the end of the project. By that time, we would know, the cost, our bids, how our bids are going to come in, where we're at in the project, and we could do that deferred maintenance piece of that at the end of the project. But I guess I'm looking at, again, within that budget of just $3 million for deferred maintenance, that gets us to that first number without alternatives. And then I think you have to go back and look at the scope of where we make adjustments if you want those alternatives to take something at the place of something else. So that's where I'm coming at.
You're talking about that number there,
Yeah.
essentially, and
Yeah.
then not inclusive of these alternates
Right,
here.
again, because we have a limited amount that we have not allocated for deferred maintenance.
Yeah, and I think Kellen might speak to some of those alternates as well.
Yeah, when we started having the conversation about the deferred maintenance and the need for what we felt was the $3 million for that deferred maintenance allocation, we identified three key pieces that had the largest financial impact on the facility. And those pieces were two projects that needed immediate repair or renovation or a complete overhaul, which was the HVAC system, the boiler repair, and the LED lighting conversion. Those three projects in and of themselves were just shy of that $3 million mark, and that was our presentation of how that worked. What I've done today is come up with some very high-level rough calculations on what some of those projects will do to the bottom line operational cost of the facility in terms of indirect expenses that are associated with those three projects. With the boiler and the HVAC repair and the lighting, all three together, we're looking at an annual cost savings on kilowatt hour usage, on gas usage, and energy consumption from the lights in excess of $100,000. So, I mean, if we're talking about what that does to the bottom line impact on how much taxable subsidy is being used to operate the facility, those three pieces in just the first year, we're estimating a savings of over $100,000, closer to $115,000 to be exact. So it is a needed project, but it's also a very well-structured and cost-saving project.
Commissioner Bueller, I appreciate your comments about the $3 million that we have set aside, but in our presentation last week in the work session, we talked about tackling the Landon Arena and the exhibition hall really simultaneously, and then the additions to the Domer Arena secondly, and then the parking lot being the last. But the Domer Arena is the part that probably has the most, causes me the most concern, because we just don't know what we don't know about our construction costs with the Domer Arena. And I think that if we're looking at an area where it may easily go over budget, just because we don't know what's going to, bid costs are going to be, construction costs are going to be, it's the Domer Arena. And so my concern is we may find that we are 3/4 of a way into a project and needing to come up with additional money. But we just don't know that until we get to that point. So earmarking the $3 million specifically for the Expo Center may be premature at this point, but I think that we could probably look at some deferred maintenance items, especially if they're going to reduce the subsidy, because we would see an immediate return of the investment.
May I ask, how much is in contingencies then?
So yeah, we've carried, and I have that here. Again, outside of that, the math of the $45 million, the financing costs, and then the soft costs, FF&E, and contingency, they're originally carried about $2 million in contingency funds in the project. And that was in the master plan, when the bonds were financed and that we realized a better value on the sale of those bonds, that increased, or that brought back to the project approximately $1 million that was left into contingency, into the contingency fund. So that totaling up about a $3 million contingency. We're going to, after this, I've got a conversation about delivery process and the costs associated with that. There are some pre-construction costs associated with, should you go with, say, a construction manager, and then some additional FF&E for if you were to replace all the stalls in the stall barns and not just provide the new stalls. Those two items brings your contingency down to around $2.5 million if you were to entertain both a construction manager and the additional stalls, replacement of the existing stalls. So still carrying about a 7 to 7.5% contingency on the project. I think that's typically in schematic design, we would be around a 10% contingency, just because you know more, you learn more. I mean, the project gets more defined as you go further on, and so that contingency can start to lower. So, so we've got there is about a 7% or $2 to $3 million contingency carried in the project, and those numbers are the numbers that you see in the estimates. The contingency is outside of that. So.
One last question. On the parking, drives, paving renovations, 2.8, is that where the lighting is? Is that where the cost is?
I believe that's the Are you talking about interior lighting or exterior lighting?
I'm trying to find out what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think he's,
So what we're talking about is the LED lighting conversion in Landon and Exhibition Hall. All of those lighting fixtures in Landon and Exhibition Hall are like Zach pointed out, a mid-'80s metal halide type system, where the real cost savings is going to come into play on the conversion to LED is not only that those lighting fixtures run on average anywhere from 30 to 40% more efficient, but their flood capability and candlelight spread is so much more impactful that we can reduce the amount of fixtures by close to 50%. We'll be going from rough calculation of about 290 down to about 160-ish, somewhere thereabouts between the two facilities, and you couple that in with the energy efficiency savings on the new units versus the old, and you're kind of getting to an energy efficiency savings on the lighting project as a whole from about 60 to 70%.
But those lighting costs are within those expansion or renovation
so yeah, big
budgets.
picture, those are, those costs for the interior lighting are within the renovation of both Exhibition Hall and Landon Arena.
But just the parking, the drives, and the paving renovations, 2.8.
Yes.
That is all parking lot.
That's all, yes, parking, and I believe that does include site lighting within
Okay.
that number, so
Okay,
kind
so
of
that's-
site development
all right, good.
outside of that.
And those lighting fixtures would be an LED conversion as well. However, that cost savings is not factored in.
To what you said.
To what
Okay.
I told you earlier.
Okay.
That's just for Landon and Exhibition Hall.
Okay, great, thank you.
So yeah, that's, I mean, I think the point of, and I think it's good that we're before you guys on a regular basis, so that as we get to, we don't come in at the end of schematic design presentation and this is all brand-new information for you. So I think the gist of these Third Thursday presentation updates are really just to keep you guys abreast to where we're at, the decisions that are being made, and just the decisions that do need to still be made in the future.
Okay.
So just to kind of tail into the conversation about those priority of projects, potentially how projects might be packaged together. As we know, the Exhibition Hall HVAC project is currently in construction. They're mobilizing, ordering equipment, getting ready to start work in there, physical work in there next week. So that project's underway. The boiler plant replacement, that is, we're going to have later in the meeting a discussion on the equipment purchase, pre-purchase of the equipment, but then the installation and the remaining contract of that is out for bid, and we'll receive bids at the end of the month as well on that project. So those are kind of two standalone projects out of the gate. The next grouping of projects that we have listed as 3 here, we really look at the Exhibition Hall, the kind of the connectivity of between Exhibition Hall from an operational standpoint, but then also from a construction sequencing standpoint, really looking at there's things that need to be, Exhibition Hall, the expansion, the renovation, as well as Landon Arena expansion and renovation as well, and really looking at that as one project and talk about what's the best delivery method to deliver that project. And then fourth phase of projects would be that equine expansion of Domer Arena, the new arena down on the south end of Domer, and then a fifth project, that last project would be just from a appropriate sequence standpoint, it makes sense that you do all your work and then do the parking lot as kind of the final piece to it. So Commissioner Bueller, to your point, that is, yes, that is a project that is sort of the last priority or last sequence of construction activity. So kind of use this as a transition to talk about the process, or talk about the construction delivery methods and the notion of entertaining a construction manager delivery process. And what the construction manager delivery process allows you to select a contractor through a qualifications-based selection process early really during the design phase, and oftentimes it's done in that design development phase where you've got a schematic design package that you're able to include in the RFQ for construction managers, and there's a selection process that you would go through to select that. But we believe that the value in where construction manager delivery methods really are beneficial is when you've got projects of complexity, whether they be in construction complexities or scheduling complexities. Projects where you've got have to fast track, where you've got to put foundations in before, say, you've got final designs built, so that you can have you bring that construction manager on board during the design process, to be able to start to dole out maybe some initial packages, or in our case, really where we're looking at just the scheduling complexities of keeping this facility operational throughout the course of construction. Having a construction manager on board that really understands the objectives of construction, understands what the budget is, and then also is working with Kellen and his team to understand what the scheduling complexities are. I think the boiler or the HVAC folks are really understanding where their windows, it's not a traditional construction project where they're just cut loose, and they've got certain windows that they need to work around because we can't reduce function of the facility there. So really, that construction manager is really where that person that delivery method excels at. Is the other component to it is being able to further vet and refine these budget estimates as it puts another set of eyes on the project, kind of an outside third-party review of the numbers and the estimates, and they're able to start to take those pieces of it and really start to put some real construction estimates to it. Would be recommended as a construction manager at risk, and that puts the notion of sort of guaranteeing the maximum guaranteed price on the responsibility of that contractor. So they're not just advising you, but they're at risk for the construction of the project. This is just really kind of to introduce the notion of that. Jim is, I think when you're ready to entertain that discussion further, there's state statutes that you follow in terms of the selection process and notification process, hearings, et cetera, about how you initiate that process. But it's something that we do. We've done with school districts. We do with many of the public entities that we work with. And when you guys are ready for kind of more information, I think Jim would be your best resource to spell out how the statute applies to the selection of a construction manager.
And I think when we get to that point, and looking over at the county counselor, that he would advise us, but I know that a question will be asked is, for the amount of money that we're paying HTK, why are you not the construction manager? Why would we need an extra person when we have you? And so I think that's going to be a question that will need to be answered, because we have our team with Spectra, we have our team from the county that's meeting with you guys, we have the third Thursday updates, we have the expertise of HTK. Why do we need one more person who's further taking money away from the project? And so I think just being prepared to answer that question as we get to it.
Okay.
Commissioner Archer?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because it's going to add soft costs that aren't accounted for in there. Is that correct?
Not in, correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we've, in that budget that, where I talked about the construction manager fees and additional stalling FF&E, that number was accounted for there. But, so it was part of that contingency line item there. The construction manager is because they're the at-risk component, or they're the at-risk, they also serve as the general contractor for the project. So they are not just an advisor to the project, but they are the general contractor to the project as well. And so that construction manager component to it is the pre-construction services that would be the time and effort that they would expend towards that. And that would really be the kind of the scheduling logistics, and then the budgeting, further refinement of the budgeting.
I was just going to say, but anticipate those questions, because we're going to be asked those questions, and we need to have solid answers for them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I would follow up, too, that we're going to be asked questions is, if it's for scheduling, then is Spectra willing to participate in those costs potentially as well? I don't know. So, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Zach.
Yep, thank you, guys.
Our next item.
Item 3, consent agenda.
There are 2 items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Motion made by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item 4, new business, A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
The vouchers are totaling $781,029.39. Solid Waste has the largest amount. Again, that is an enterprise fund, non-tax dollars, $171,172.65. Parks and Recreation, $119,982.26, and that is subtotal for all those sections. And the Health Department, $62,978.68. A large amount of that is going to Kansas Children's Service League for their services. I have no questions. Move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller,
Second.
second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move for approval of the correction orders.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item B, Court Administration, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-162-2018 with No Before for a computer security awareness training subscription for the courts for the period of 6/1/2018 through 5/31/2021 at a one-time cost of $6,826.68 with funding from the 2018 budget.
Good morning, Charles Heidovich, District Court. As indicated, this is our annual renewal for our security training for all of our staff for our computer systems. I'd like to point out that staff are now very hypersensitive to items that come across their email, et cetera, and so we've been able to reduce any potential threats. Shawnee County's IT system, or their department, has also partnered with Know Before as well, so we're getting a reduced price for the entire county at this time as well. I would also like to point out that while $6,800 and change may seem a lot of money, there was recently a court clerk's office that opened a malicious email. Their virus, their system was taken over by ransomware, and I can guarantee you that the cost to retrieve and get access back to their data was much more than this. So I think it's a worthwhile investment.
Any questions?
I agree, and I'll move to approve the contract.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer for approval, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item.
Item C, County Councilor, number 1, consider approval of request from Eric Herm to purchase 3 county-owned properties for a total of $303 and authorization to execute the appropriate documents to effectuate the sale.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Krause, Shawnee County Councilor. We received a phone call from a private individual out of the blue wanting to purchase these 3 properties. If you look on the memo, one of the properties we've held since a tax sale since 2011, another one since 2005, and then one of them from 1961, which was amazing to me. But this gentleman wants them. We've followed through the statutory process. They are, at this point, available to sell for anyone, and I would recommend approval of the sale.
Not to get us off track, but is there a listing of all of the properties that we might have like this? So if there's other individuals that want a good deal like this, they can...
There is a listing on our website, and there are only 2 properties left after this sale, so they're going fast.
Any questions? I'll move approval of the request to purchase the 3 properties.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Our next item.
Item C2, consider approval of request to award bid for the purchase of a boiler to Associated Equipment Sales in the amount of $186,965, and the purchase of a domestic water heating boiler to Blackmore and Glunt for $13,934 for the Kansas Expo Center to be installed by the contractor, with funding source to be determined.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Crowell, County Councilor, again on this item. You have a detailed memorandum from Bill Bassett with Latimer, Summers and Associates explaining the details of this situation. We have a couple of issues creating urgency on this boiler project. Number one, the boiler doesn't work at all, so we've got to get the boiler replaced by October. Number two, they're expecting a price increase as of around June 1st, so it's recommended that we go ahead and purchase the boilers now and purchase them and hold them as the owner, and then issue a contract for installation by a contractor later. And that's sort of the phasing of the process. And Mr. Bassett's here if you have any more specific questions than that about the project.
Any questions for Mr. Bassett or Mr. Crowell about the projects?
Move to approve.
Before we, there's a third step, Commissioner,
There is.
and that's the funding.
Betty Griner, Director of Administrative Services. A couple things. First of all, because of the time-sensitive nature of this, we really did not have time to go out for bid on this, for a formal bid, like we normally would for an item over $10,000. So what we have done is trying to follow our purchasing policy as much as we can with the time constraints. We have gone out for an informal bid, and he has received quotes from several different companies, as you can see in the information that was provided for you. So what we are also asking is that you waive the purchasing policy for this plan, because it is not following the normal RFP that we would do on this. And then the second item is that we would need a funding source.
Betty, on the funding source, having heard the discussion that we just had on the update of the Expo Center, where we may have items that are deferred maintenance, not renovation cost. Commissioner Bueller pointed out that we do have money that we've set aside from excess reserves that were to either be sent for the Expo Center or for Parks and Recreation. Do we need to designate today where that money comes from for the project, or can we take it out of our money that we have for the Expo Center, and then if we have an issue that we are needing money, we can reclassify an item as being a renovation as opposed to a deferred maintenance?
The normal course of business at this point in time for this item would be to come out of the items for the renovation project, because it is on that list. To change that, you would need to designate a different source. Now, if later you decide you want to use reserves for this, we can make that transfer at that time.
Okay. And I guess that was really kind of my question. I don't want to seem like we're playing games or being funny, but if we pay for the money out, or pay for the project out of what we have right now, and then at a later time we were to redesignate items as deferred maintenance as opposed to a renovation,
Yes.
having it paid for from another source.
Yes, we could make that transfer at that time.
And then that wouldn't seem like we're playing a bait and switch or playing games with
No.
money. All right. I guess for the taxpayers' trust, I mean, that's what's ultimately at risk.
Well, and this would be for monies, we already have monies collected from the sales tax
Yes.
that we have in our possession. It's not with the debt then.
That's correct. It
Okay.
is, yes. And it's also in a separate fund, so it's not like this is general fund money that's being used for this at this point in time. It's in a separate fund for this project.
So, I mean, there may come a time where we need to address whether or not we want to take those reserve funds that we have and apply them to the Expo Center project or not, whether or not they would be classified as a deferred maintenance item as opposed to renovation. But at this point, it's just going to be paid out of the money we already have and not out of the reserve funds that we have set aside.
That's correct, unless you direct me otherwise.
Commissioner Archer, any other? Okay.
Sales tax money.
Yeah. So your motion, I think you started to make a motion, and we added 2 more items to it. Make sure you've got it all.
Okay.
Still your motion?
Move to approve.
So that,
I'll second.
You need to approve and waive the purchasing.
Waive
And waive
purchasing
purchase
and the
and allocate
financing.
the sales tax.
Yes.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Our
Thank you,
next
Bill
item.
and Betty.
Item D, Information Technology. Number 1, consider approval of request to increase the monthly spending for Microsoft Azure website spending or services, a hosting platform for a number of software applications, from $500 per month to $1,500 per month with funding from the 2018 IT budget.
Morning, Commissioners. Mark Price, Information Technology. What you have before you is an increase to our Azure monthly payment. Since 2013, we've been hosting some applications out in Azure that outside agencies have been using. We're going to actually increase applications we're putting out there that the public will be using, and just to be prepared for that, we want to increase that spending to $1,500 a month.
Any questions on that? I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Our next item.
Item E, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, consider out-of-state travel for one employee to attend the 2018 National Association of County Parks and Recreation Officials Summer Meeting to be held in Nashville, Tennessee.
Morning, Commissioners. Olivia, Parks and Recreation. We're requesting to send one employee to the National Association of Parks and Recreation Summer Meeting and Conference. As well, we submitted a couple of different applications for their annual awards, and one of our submission was selected for the Volunteer of the Year. So we will also be sending someone for that as well.
Very good. Any questions regarding this request?
None. I'll move approval.
Motion for approval by Commissioner Bueller.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Thank you.
Thanks.
Our next item.
Item F, Facilities Maintenance. Number 1, consider approval of request to purchase 2 amplifiers for the public address sound system for the Sunflower Ballroom at the Manor Conference Center with funding of $1,981.72 from the contingency fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, you approved replacing 3 of the amplifiers in the Sunflower Room out of contingency funds, and when they came in and got those installed and started tuning everything in, 2 other amplifiers decided to die after 30 years. So this would replace those last 2 amplifiers for the Sunflower Room, and I'm just requesting that we do it out of contingency funds.
Any questions on this?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion for approval by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Our next item.
Item F2, consider approval of request to award bid to Sunflower Paving for milling, overlay, and restriping of the parking lot on the southwest corner of 6th Street and Monroe, and the parking lot at the northeast corner of 6th Street and Monroe. That northeast, one southwest corner, the other's northeast corner, okay. And authorization and execution of contract C-163-2018 for same with funding of $127,217.75 from the 2018 Capital Outlay Fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. North of the courthouse, one parking lot along Interstate 70 in Monroe would be one of the first ones to be milled and overlaid. The other one is directly north of the courthouse between 6th Street and our alley. They're both asphalt, approximately 2 to 3 inches deep in asphalt, where we still have some asphalt, especially in the one directly north of the alley. This would mill and overlay those and give us, quite a bit of life. I'm hoping 15 to 20 years before we'd have to do much to them, because there hasn't been anything done for them in 15 or 20 years. So a lot of potholes in them, and we did have this budgeted for in the 2018 capital outlay, and Sunflower Paving came in lower than Bettis, which was, I asked Bettis if they could just take the rest out of Rich Eckert's payment, but they wouldn't do that.
I'm sure Mr. Eckert is thankful for that.
Yeah, he was.
Any questions regarding this? I'll move approval. Oh, Commissioner Bueller, do you have a question?
No. Total bid for the work is 124 or 127?
127, and that includes the striping,
Okay.
restriping both lots.
Okay. Because according to, I'm looking at something different, but I don't know if the clerk sees 124,217.
Yeah, that was the bid without striping,
Without
and with
striping
striping,
is
it's
$127.
$3,000 more.
Mine says 127. But then again, I took my contact out before I came downstairs, so this is,
The agenda says 127, but it's not reflected. Okay,
Yeah, the difference is the striping
Thank you.
of both lots.
there we go.
I'll move for approval.
Sure.
And then Commissioner Bueller, your second?
Yes, second.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Our next item.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
This time, if there's any member of the public or department head that wishes to address the commission on any item, this is your opportunity.
Good morning, Commissioners. Last time for Kellen Sites in the Kansas Expo Center. We announced another great event for the summer months this week. So we are announcing Garden Brothers Circus for 2 performances on Wednesday, June 13th. So their performances will be at 4:30 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. So a great summer circus event for families and children. And they'll have all those lovely free tickets scattered throughout the community. So find them at Dairy Queen and all the other all schools and libraries and all that fun stuff. So we're looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cindy Evans, Shawnee County Extension. I just wanted to make a comment along with the idea of the production kitchen over at the Expo, which I'm in support of for all the reasons that they have cited here. But I also wanted to add that you might consider, if you were designing it, to make it available to entrepreneurs for rent. There's strong desire by Glenda Washington with Go Topeka to have an incubator kitchen in Topeka. But you can see from the projected cost, it was $580,000. It is really cost prohibitive, to think of building something like that, because even though you build it, they really don't come in droves, and they don't come with a lot of money in the beginning, because a potential entrepreneur is kind of testing the waters, and that is why they don't have a licensed kitchen of their own. They haven't made the investment in licensing or, a place of their own. They're trying to test something, although some will use it kind of long-term. So a similar situation is over in Douglas County. When they've done the renovations to the fairground over there, they have a licensed kitchen on their fairgrounds. And the county has they take care of the contract. People who come in will sign a contract, they leave a deposit. They are trained in the equipment that they're going to use in that kitchen to make sure safety standards are upheld. But it's very affordable because they didn't already have to go out on their own and, put all this investment. So what I think it could potentially provide is an affordable space for entrepreneurs. It might provide a little bit of revenue back in. I'm not trying to act like it's a ton of money coming back, but if you made it affordable, I think it would help to spur entrepreneurship as well as give a little bit of money back for that investment. And it may have the potential of grants. You know, if you, I hate to speak for Glenda because she's not here, but she and I have talked about that dream of an incubator kitchen. And so I just wanted to throw it out there, that certainly I think it has some real merit if it was possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public or department head?
Thank you. Carol Marple, and I hadn't intended to speak, but I did listen about the expo. And I think probably the worst thing we can do is, and I believe it's $45 million we had allocated to improve the expo, correct me if I'm wrong, is to spend $45 million on a building and open it up and have deferred maintenance issues. I don't think that is a good thing. I think there's some terminology here. I wasn't sure where the $3 million of unallocated funds came from, but I think Commissioner Cook addressed that it's the excess reserve money. You know, in my opinions, upgrades to bathrooms, heating, lighting, that's all part of renovation, is the way I see it. You know, because who would want to spend that kind of money and have the same old bathrooms or and we all agree the parking lot is horrible. So that's just my opinion, what I see that as. You know, we have $45 million, we have $6 million in cash, and then we went out for bonds, which we probably, if I understood, made an extra $1 million that didn't go to fees. So we have $33 million. I just think that, you know, we all have wants, but we need to get realistic with what we can afford. And I think $5 million over budget is a lot of money, and I understand that, you know, that's not a hard and fast number, but I think we need to start looking at this with what we have, the money we have, and think about that, because I'm sure it's costly to the architect to go back and revamp it. So that's just my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other member of the public? Commissioner Archer, anything?
No, not this morning, thank you.
Mr. Chair. Commissioner Bueller.
Just want to say congratulations to all the Small Business Award winners. I know we had the chance to attend the festivities, and it's always a nice event, and to see all the great small businesses that we have in this community.
It
So,
really
yeah,
is.
It was.
It really is. It was a well-attended event. It was good to hear. Brent Bowles did a very good talk,
He did.
Presentation about the investment into small businesses, and that also just that a small business is anybody with 500 employees or less, which makes up 97% of all businesses in the United States are small businesses. But they're our community, and it's really, again, what adds that spice to your community and makes it flavorful. So, our next item.
Item 6, executive session.
There is a need for an executive session. We will be journeying into executive session to discuss employer-employee negotiations, whether or not in consultation with a representative or representatives of the public body or agency, specifically wage negotiations, and that'll be for a period of 10 minutes. There will also be consultation with the attorney for the body that would be deemed privileged, specifically to discuss the contract related to the coroner, and that would be for 10 minutes. And then also to discuss personnel matters of non-elected officials, specifically our department head evaluations, and that will be for a period of an hour and a half. That brings us to a total of 1 hour and 50 minutes, if my math is correct. So that is a motion to adjourn into executive session for those purposes.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. We are adjourned into executive session. No action is intended at the end of the executive session.
To return at 11:50.
To return at 11:50.
Okay.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We are back in session. No action is taken. We are adjourned.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Yep.
Congratulations on the graduation.